She says her life looks perfect on paper. Good job, nice apartment, a passport full of stamps, a calendar that's actually full. Then she goes quiet for a second and says the thing nobody expected her to say out loud. I've never felt this alone in my life. For years, loneliness got framed as a men's problem, the isolated guy, the one nobody checks on. But something's shifting. More women are saying the quiet part out loud now, and the reasons are a lot messier than women just have unrealistic standards. Stick around, because by the end of this, the picture is going to be a lot bigger than dating apps. Let's start with the version of this nobody saw coming. She has the career, she has the freedom, she has the independence every generation before her fought for, and she comes home to an apartment that's completely silent, not peaceful silent, empty silent. Picture it for a second. 7:40 p.m., groceries on the counter, still in the bags, phone on the table, screen lighting up every few minutes with nothing that actually matters, a notification from an app, a promo email, nothing from a person. She scrolls through her contacts anyway, names she hasn't texted in months, names attached to people who used to be a phone call, not a scroll. Nobody to call. Not because she doesn't know people, because the people she knows stopped being the people she sees. Here's what's strange about all this. It's not happening to women who did anything wrong. It's happening to women who did everything right. Good grades, good job, good decisions, one after another. And somewhere along the way, the friendships got thinner without anyone deciding they should. Nobody warned her that freedom, the real kind, the kind you build with your own two hands, sometimes comes with a side effect nobody puts on the label. That side effect has a name. We'll get to why that name is suddenly everywhere. First, there's a contradiction sitting right underneath all of it, and it's the one almost nobody wants to touch. I don't need a man to be happy. You've heard this 1,000 times. It's become a kind of reflex, a shield you put up before anyone even swings. And it's true. Nobody needs a relationship to survive. Nobody needs a partner to pay rent or laugh at a joke or get through a Tuesday. But then, sometimes in the same breath, I just wish I had someone to share this with. 2 sentences, both sincere, both said by the same woman, sometimes minutes apart. Not needing someone and wanting someone. Those aren't opposites, but somewhere in the last decade, admitting you want companionship started sounding like admitting you're weak, behind, needy. So a lot of women learned to perform independence, even in moments when what they actually felt was closer to longing. There's a difference between being capable of living alone and choosing to build your whole life around it. One is a skill, the other is a sentence. And plenty of women built the skill so well they never stopped to ask if they actually wanted the sentence. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because loneliness isn't just romantic. That's the part everyone assumes. It's also the part that misses most of the story. Ask any 30-year-old woman about her friendships and watch her face change. Not sad exactly, tired. Picture this one too. A group chat, 4 names. Once upon a time, it moved every few minutes, all day, every day. Now, someone sends, "We should catch up soon on a Tuesday." 3 people react with a heart emoji. Nobody suggests a date. The chat goes quiet again for 11 days. Friends get married, friends have kids, friends move for a job that sounded exciting at the time and somehow never move back. Nobody did anything wrong. That's what makes this so disorienting. There's no villain here. Just time, doing what time always does when nobody's watching it closely. Friendship gives you laughter, history, someone who remembers who you were at 19 and loves you anyway. But for a lot of people, it doesn't give them the one thing they're actually missing. Consistency. The person who's there every single day, not because it got scheduled 3 weeks in advance, but because that's simply where they live now, in your life. Permanently? Friendship is enormous. For a lot of people, it's still not the whole answer. And once you admit that to yourself, you have to go looking somewhere else. Which brings us to the place everyone assumed would fix this. The apps. More single adults have access to potential partners right now than at any point in human history. Millions of profiles, one thumb. So why does it feel harder than it used to? 11:52 p.m. She opens the app again. 3 new matches waiting. One guy never replied to her last message 4 days ago. One conversation just stopped mid-sentence, like the other person walked into another room and never came back. The third sends hey again. Second time, still nothing else. She closes the app. 10 minutes later, she opens it again. That's not one bad night. Some version of that scene is playing out on a lot of phones. Right now, tonight, closer to you than you'd think. Then there's the other version, the one that's arguably worse. The situationship. Not quite dating, not quite not dating. A gray zone built specifically so nobody has to promise anything. Weeks of it, sometimes months. And underneath every single swipe sits the same exhausting question, quietly running in the background like a program nobody remembers installing. Is there someone better, one swipe away? That question alone is doing more damage than people give it credit for. Because when everyone believes something better might be one thumb flick over, almost nobody commits to what's actually standing right in front of them. She deletes the app in frustration, re-downloads it a week later out of loneliness, deletes it again, more access, less connection. That's the trade nobody actually agreed to. Everyone's just living with it anyway. Now, before you assume this is only about swiping culture, there's a deeper layer. And this is the one that turns the whole thing into a real conversation instead of just a sad statistic. Standards. Ask a woman what she wants in a partner and you'll usually get something specific. Ambitious, emotionally available, funny but not immature. Financially stable, but not obsessed with money. Confident, but not arrogant. Reasonable, right? Here's the twist. Some of these preferences quietly contradict each other, and almost nobody notices until they're 34, single, wondering why the math stopped working, wanting total independence, while also wanting a partner dramatically more successful than you. Wanting equal partnership, while still expecting certain old-fashioned gestures underneath it. Wanting unlimited options, while also wanting someone to choose you completely, permanently, right now, no hesitation. None of these desires are unreasonable on their own. Stacked together, they shrink the available pool down to almost nothing. To be clear, this isn't an argument for settling. Loneliness doesn't mean anyone owes their standards away. A bad relationship is not better than no relationship. That part isn't up for debate. But there's a harder question hiding just underneath. Does everyone actually understand the size of the trade-off they're making? Every preference has a price. Most people never sit down and calculate the bill. Hold on to that thought. It connects to something bigger later. For now, let's talk about the thing quietly making all of this worse in the background, every single day, without anyone clocking it as the problem. The phone in your hand. Open any app right now, and within 30 seconds, you'll see a wedding, a baby announcement, a trip somewhere with better weather than wherever you're sitting. Everyone else looks surrounded, constantly celebrating, constantly together, constantly not alone. Saturday, 9 p.m. She's on the couch, show paused, phone in hand, 12 stories in a row, a wedding, a baby shower, a group of 6 at dinner, laughing at something the camera didn't catch. She sets the phone face down on the cushion, picks it back up 90 seconds later. Here's the trick nobody explains. Social media doesn't show you people's lives. It shows you their best 40 seconds, filtered and uploaded specifically because it was the best 40 seconds they had all week. You end up comparing your entire unedited life to everyone else's highlight reel. Of course it feels unfair. It was built that way on purpose. And here's the part that actually stings. Hundreds of contacts, for some people, thousands, every one of them technically reachable in under a second. Still nobody to call at 11 at night when something actually goes wrong. Being digitally surrounded and being socially connected are not the same thing. One fills your notifications, the other fills a room. Only one of them was ever going to be enough. Now, everything up to this point has had an edge to it, some sarcasm, some pushback. That's fair, because a lot of it deserves scrutiny, but there's a moment where the jokes have to stop. Because some of what women are actually describing isn't about dating apps, or standards, or Instagram at all. It's a birthday, alone. Candles unlit on a store-bought cupcake, because ordering a cake for one person felt a little too sad to justify. It's a Friday night with nothing on the calendar. not because she's tired, because there was nowhere to be and nobody to be there with. It's 3 a.m., something's gone wrong, and the list of people to call runs out faster than she expected it to. It's turning 30, then 32, then 35. Quietly wondering if this is just what her life is now. You can disagree with someone's dating choices. You can think their standards are unrealistic, or their independence is a shield, or their expectations don't match reality. None of that makes the loneliness less real. Pain doesn't wait for you to agree with someone's reasoning before it becomes valid. Sit with that one for a second before we keep going. So here's the real shape of the question. Why now? Why a wave of admissions instead of a whispered secret kept for another 20 years? It's not one cause. Anyone selling you a single tidy explanation is selling you something too simple to be true. Marriage happening later than it used to. Friend groups scattering the second life gets busy. Remote work quietly removing the built-in daily contact an office used to force on people, whether they wanted it or not. Dating fatigue from years of swiping through the same disappointing loop. Community spaces, clubs, churches, local groups thinner than they were a generation ago. Independence, real and hard-won, arriving with a cost nobody printed on the box. A phone that makes everyone else's life look constantly full, while yours looks by comparison empty. None of these alone explains it. Stacked together quietly for years, without anyone noticing the pattern forming. That's how you end up with women across different platforms, different countries, different backgrounds, describing the exact same feeling in the exact same short window of time. The real story was never that women suddenly became lonely. Plenty of women have felt this for a long time, probably longer than anyone was willing to say out loud. What actually changed is the silence around it. There used to be a script. Smile, say you're fine, post a picture from the trip, and never once mention what the apartment feels like the moment you walk back in. That script is breaking, slowly, publicly. One honest comment section at a time. And here's the question worth sitting with, longer than any of the others. Why does a world with more communication, more freedom, more choice, and more access than any generation before it still manage to leave so many people sitting alone in a quiet room, wondering where everyone went? Maybe the answer isn't complicated at all. Maybe more choice was never the same thing as more connection. It just took this long for enough people to say it out loud at the same time for the rest of us to finally notice. If any part of this hit closer to home than you expected, you're not the only one. Say so in the comments. Somebody reading them tonight needs to know that too.